up the good work, man, and stay flat, okay?
Okay, I'm a flat earther.
Well, let's if we had it, it would be a good, really cool graphic to do. Maybe I'll do it next week. But I would say, Dave, can you bring up the bitch-made board so we can add another name to it? Because apparently it's too late for our original contender to be with us. But it's not too late if he can bring a buddy with him to help him out with what shape the Earth is.
Yeah, but did we say, hey, it's okay. You can bring a friend.
Yeah, we totally say that. We totally said, you can bring a little buddy. It's okay. We'll be nice. We won't yell.
And he's still bitched
You'll be
out,
nice.
right?
Don't talk for me.
Yep. So let's throw up that hashtag bitchmade sign, and Spurs, congratulations. When it comes to the shape of the Earth, you're bitchmade. We are working on another person coming in, Flat Earth Disciple, I believe. If you're listening, we have sent you the link through your email. You can check that, and we'll just talk about some things while we wait on you. Or if there's anyone else in the chat that believes that we are on a flat plane or anything like that, you're more than welcome to come in. Just tag myself or Dave in the live chat, and we will get you a link. I'm seeing that David McKinnon says that he should be there in just a second. Oh, well, let's take his name off then. See, look at me. I'm jumping to conclusions and calling you. We know, Dave. We know, Dave. I see you in the live chat. We've got it. Okay, so we all are here then. Okay, good. I was going to ask Godless Engineer before we started this discussion about Globebusters. I don't know if anybody noticed, but Globebusters channel is all the content off of it's gone, and I hadn't heard about what happened.
Yeah. So Globebusters is gone primarily because Bob's a puss. I mean, he's backtracking, I guess. I don't know.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I've heard a couple of stories. I heard that that they got porn bombed, but I don't know if that's true. But then I also heard it's all to do with copyright of like the Ghostbusters logo and the trademarked, who you're gonna call thing.
Well, now that would make more sense than like being porn bombed, because being porn bombed would have just gotten a strike on the channel or something like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the whole Ghostbusters thing's maybe, but they have edited it enough to where it could be seen as fair use, and so I don't really think people could trademark that.
Why would they take down every video though? That's the thing. Even if you got hit with a strike or something like that, why would you take down every video that you had up there? That's strange.
Yeah. So my guess is that Bob's tired of being called control opposition by his own community, and he just got tired of all of the shit that he was getting, so he just took shit down. That's my only guess.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Farewell, Globebusters, I guess. Fight the Flat Earth. Sorry, my brain's still offline today. Fight the Flat Earth. You recently had a video this week made about you from Jeranism.
Yeah, well, not just me. It was kind of mainly directed at Reds, but it was talking about a hangout that me and Sean Hufford and Reds were in. Red said put his drone up and taken a nice photo of the ocean and then put it through paint and compressed it left to right to show that there was curve. However, Jeranism thought that was just lying and tried to show that every lens would give a curve, because that's exactly how optics work, apparently.
Yeah, well, Reds did a rebuttal to it, and I think did a really good job of showing that wasn't how it worked. So I think that was well done. Well, I hear that you got your channel. You haven't been back since you had your channel restored, so congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And let's go ahead and begin. I'll let you guys, everybody in the call today, take a second to introduce yourself, where your channel is, where they can find more of you. We'll start with Fight the Flat Earth and then move to the Flat Earth team.
Hey guys, I'm Fight the Flat Earth. My channel, you can find me at Fight the Flat Earth. I debunk flat Earth nonsense because it is just nonsense. Recently got my live streaming capabilities back, so I'm doing a bunch more live streams, and I've got like 6 videos in production. Now I've got my new computer up and running, so I'll have a whole bunch of content out next week. Thanks for having me on again tonight, guys. I'm looking forward to a discussion about the moon landings.
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody knows we didn't go to the moon. Chemo. We got Chemo and Merle. Take a second to introduce yourself where people can find you, if you have a channel, anything like that, and then we'll begin.
Okay, am I coming through okay? You can hear me okay?
Yep.
Yep, you're good.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
can I get a mic check
Yeah,
too?
okay, so
you both sound fine.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, okay, so Spurskimo. It's a bit confusing for some people to pronounce. The moon landing, yeah, I believe the moon landing to be a complete hoax, fabrication. No real tangible proof to suggest that we've been to the moon. We've never returned to the moon, not in my generation, not in my lifetime, I would say. It doesn't look like we're going back to the moon anytime soon. We hear lots of excuses like, why do we need to go back? We've been there, we've done that. But I still think it'd be very interesting to have the option to go back if it were possible. I believe actually the moon, the whole entire moon landing operation was to hide the shape of the Earth. So you have a moon landing, you provide fake pictures, fake photographs. It stops people asking questions for a period, which is what we've seen up until now. So yeah, there's lots of information, lots of little things that can make a person think that we've never been to the moon. But you have to forgive me as well, 'cause I'm not quite, again, sorry, you'll have to forgive me, I'm not quite prepared. I wasn't going to actually participate. We spoke about doing this in 2 halves, or just covering a few bits, and then obviously trying to do this again when we're more prepared. This is, that's fine. Merle?
Yeah,
Merle?
it's totally spontaneous combustion unit, if you know what I'm saying. We're doing this on the fly. I just got asked to do this like 5 minutes ago, literally, but I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to participate in this. Yeah, I've always wanted to go to the moon myself, personally. Whether we can actually do that is another thing, and I'm very skeptical on a lot of things about the moon landing. So yeah, that's just my stance.
And I want to give you both the chance to plug your, if you have a channel or anything like that. Do you have anything that you want to put out there that people can check out if they want to watch more of you?
Yeah, I've got a channel. It's just my name, Merle Beauregard. It's just YouTube, and yeah, I do streams like weekly, and not just about, you know, flat Earth, just about life and being human, and yeah.
Right, and Kimbo?
Yeah, I mean, I have a channel, but I don't stream or anything like that. But you know, you can find me in places like Nathan Oakley. Got a bit of an echo. You can find me places like Nathan Oakley's channel, Sleeping Warriors channel. You can also find me on Discord in Gem Panda's Flat Earth Debate and more.
Okay. All right. So let's do this then. To start out, let's have you guys pick a particular piece of evidence for why you don't think we went to the moon. And that way we'll take it one piece at a time, and we don't unload too much. So let's start out with just what's your strongest evidence that we haven't gone to the moon?
Before you do that, Kyle, Flat Earth Disciple has also joined the call. So we have...
Okay, well, okay, here's the Flat Earth Disciple. We were gonna, I didn't know that if these two were coming on or not. Let's do this. Can we bring you on maybe next week? Because I don't want to mix the moon landing and the flat Earth. If we were all going to be talking about a flat Earth, I would just have all 3 of them here. But I don't want to, you know.
I'll be happy to come back next week and have a discussion with Flat Earth Disciple.
Yeah, I just don't want to mix the two. If that's okay with him.
Yeah, he left. So I
Okay.
guess he agrees.
All right.
I
Yeah.
think that's a good idea.
Yeah, we'll get with you next week. I just don't want to mix the two. So yeah, let's start out with the biggest piece of evidence that you have of us not going to the moon. What you think the strongest case is?
Well, I mean, it's there are lots of different things. One thing that stands out for me is supposedly there's not meant to be sound on the moon, and there's a video out there. I'd have to dig it up right now, but I'm sure you could find it if you look for it. But there's a hammer. There's an astronaut with a hammer, and he is obviously hitting something metal. The question is, how are we able to hear the sound? How are we able to pick up? Where is the sound? What is the medium? What is it traveling through? We've been told things like the microphone inside the helmet, the glove, sound travel through the glove, up the arm, through the microphone to his helmet. But if that were true, we've seen other astronauts with drills, with they've been playing golf on the moon, for goodness sakes, and no sound has been recorded. So this is one of the few times when sound has been recorded on the moon. Now, for me, this is something that stands out. We need explaining sufficiently, maybe replicating, so we know that what we're talking about, not just something that we can just say, oh, this is the reason, this is the cause. This is something where we would have to show this would be the reason, and this is how it works. That's for me. Merle, anything for you?
Yeah. I mean, I've been quite an avid fan of space, I guess, since I was a little boy. For me, some of the anomalies come in even with the America-Russia space race and things like Sputnik. I kind of just feel that what was the real thing behind the space race? Why was it a race? They were sort of pushing each other, and then
No. You're still with us?
You might be having connect problems.
By the way, let me say, I'm hearing some like I'm hearing somebody like something playing in the background. Does anybody have the feed up or playing in the background? Because I'm picking up a little bit of
something.
That playback.
Sorry, that might have been me. I was just listening to the video they mentioned about the hammer impact, so I could respond to it.
Okay. So I guess while we wait on Merle, you can go ahead and respond to Spurskimo's.
Okay. Well, listening, I've just got that video up, and I've sent the link to Dave if he wants to display it. To me, it doesn't even sound like hammer impacts. It sounds like static in the radio. Watching the video where he's hammering it in, the noises don't coincide with what he's hammering, and to me, that just sounds like static. And any case, sound does travel through vibrations, so it is possible that could have been picked up by the mic if it is the hammering noises. But based on what the video that I've just watched, I don't even think it's hammering noises. I think it's static in the mic.
Well, you see, the thing is, again, you have to forgive me because I wasn't prepared. This is why I probably didn't want to. But I have the audio of the astronauts discussing this sound, where they say things like, "Are you supposed to hear this noise, this hammer?" And one would say, I thought there was no sound on the moon. So they actually discuss this phenomena, this sound on the moon. So if it was static, it would have been ruled out. It wasn't. It was clear to hear. But yeah, I mean, I suppose you could say it's static. But like I say, I'm underprepared right now. But yeah, next time we discuss this, I'll be able to show you the audio of them discussing this noise. So for me, that's yeah. Yeah.
Can I just ask for clarification? When when did we set this up? Like I don't want it to seem unfair that you've been caught off guard, but I thought we had this planned for a while.
Thursday, I contacted Spurskimo about it.
Okay, yeah, so you're saying
I did say this is because it's 2:00 in the morning here in the UK, and it's rather late. And you were like, "Well, you want it for the American audience." So I was like, "Well, I'm not quite sure," and then I happened to be up. So I thought I would,
Okay.
you know, show up and whatnot. So,
Well, now, Fight the
Right.
Flat Earth, when you contacted Chemo over here, did you designate the time?
Yeah, I told him that. Well, originally I said it would probably be round midnight or 1 because that's when it normally is, and then I confirmed that it would be 2. I mean, so he knew it was going to be late.
I just want to make sure that
it always is. And I even said to him, "Well, do what I do and have a nap." But
I just want to make sure that, like, I clarified that it wasn't like I don't want people to think that we just sprung this on you, Chemo, like, you know, 5 minutes ago. That's the only thing. Like, I don't want it to seem unfair that way.
No, not at all. Yeah. But I mean, to give a good presentation,
Sure.
I would obviously need more time, because it's not a quick thing to show that the moon landing was a hoax, right? But I thought we could just discuss it now, a few points, what you thought of them, and just see where it goes from there.
That's fun. Okay, Flat Earth, you were going to respond to the sound thing?
Yeah, well, like I said, from watching the video that I assume he's talking about, I didn't think it sounded like hammer noises, and if it is, then I still say that it could be picked up by the astronaut's mic because sound travels through vibrations, and you know there's going to be other things that the sound can travel through other than the medium of air. So even if the astronauts were discussing these kind of things, I mean, they've never been in the moon before, and I'm sure it's all going to be interesting to them. I don't think that, and even if they are on the moon discussing that they shouldn't have been able to hear something that they did, then surely that still shows that they were on the moon.
Right.
I personally don't really think that's very strong evidence against the moon landing.
How would the sound travel on the moon? What would it travel through? What's the medium?
Well, the sound would, if it was picking up the sound, it could have traveled through the hammer and through the astronaut's suit, through the microphone.
How does it get from outside of the suit to inside of the suit? How does it travel from outside of the suit?
What?
Well, as he hit the... Sorry, go on, John.
No, well, I mean, I was just gonna ask. Could one of you guys explain to me what exactly like sound or sound waves are, just so that we could get a firm footing here?
Explain what you don't know what sound is.
No. I know what sound is. I'm asking you guys if you can explain sound to me. So this is a fundamental thing that I find with a lot of
That's what we're asking. Well, Godless, this is the point. We're asking you, how can sound travel through an atmosphere that doesn't have a medium for it to travel through? How would that happen?
That's never just medium of an atmosphere to travel. Sound can travel through other things.
Yeah, but we've never been in a place like this. So how would we know?
Hold on, people. Hold on. I need you to explain what sound is to me. Act like I'm 5 years old or something. Tell me what sound is. Did we
It's
lose
the absence
them?
of this. It's the absence of what we're experiencing right now. Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, yeah. So sound is it's vibrations, and they travel through one medium, and they reach our ears or an animal's ear, or so basically it's a vibration. Yeah.
Okay. So what happens when you tap on like a wall? Why can you hear that on the other side?
Because it travels through the medium. Through the air.
No. It would travel through the wall, not the air. You're on the other side of the wall. You're not connected to the same air. You'd hear that banging on the wall because the sound is traveling. I know.
If you bang,
so that's my point in relation to how could the astronaut hear the sound, is because that vibration would be traveling through the hammer, into his suit, into his hand, through his bones, through everything that's connected to him and possibly picked up by the microphone. You don't just need the medium of the atmosphere for sound to travel. For instance, in water, sound travels a lot longer and a lot faster, which is how whales can communicate over such massive distances. They don't have the atmosphere to communicate through. They've got a different medium. The same way that the sound on the moon could have traveled through maybe that pole and the moon itself up through the astronauts' boots. There's other ways that vibration get from the hammer to the microphone.
Yeah, you know what? It's very fun fact here is you can actually tell what kind of medium wave, like vibrations or whatnot, are passing through by like frequency and how long like it takes for wave or like vibrations to pass through a certain medium. You can actually determine what makes up that medium. That's how we do a lot of like the deep like the deep seismology, or figuring out like what the Earth is made out of and shit like that. When you pound on it and have vibrations go through it, and you can determine exactly what the Earth's made out of by the vibrations and how they react. So, I mean, vibrations don't just have to travel through air. I think it's totally reasonable that they travel through suits and bones and all that other kind of shit.
You would say that drilling would make more vibrations than a hammer. No? If they were drilling into the moon. Yeah?
Probably, yes.
So why aren't the sounds being picked up from the drill? How are the lesser vibrations being picked up and the higher vibrations?
I mean, I don't know what their setup was. So I mean, I don't think that the cameras had microphones on them. I mean, it's not like they took a JVC camcorder up there and they just sort of filmed it.
I mean, maybe
no,
they
but
didn't
again,
have their microphones turned on when they were doing the drilling.
You're saying sound can travel through the globes, through the moon, and up to the microphone. But they were drilling, they were driving their buggy. No sound, no other sound was picked up other than this hammer.
I would disagree with that, Spurs, because I've listened to a lot of, I've listened to a lot and watched a lot of the stuff around the moon landings, and there's always background noise and stuff and rustling from within the astronauts' headset and stuff, and you can actually hear vibrations when they are driving around in the buggy. But who's to say that when they were doing the drilling that they hadn't turned the microphone off or something like that? What you're doing here is just going, ooh, I don't think that you should be able to hear that, without really knowing the setup of what was going on, or frankly the physics of how sound travels.
So you're saying that sound can travel on the moon, even though NASA put out a statement saying that there is no sound on the moon?
There would not be sound traveling through the atmosphere, but vibrations can be picked up as sound.
Do you have a link to that that NASA statement that they put out? I'd like to read that.
Yeah, I'd have to dig around for it. Let me try to find it now.
Is Merle back with us? Did we get Merle back?
I think Merle might have dropped out.
I don't hear Merle anymore.
It says he's here, but he's not talking.
Okay.
Oh, is he still here?
Merle. Yeah. And by the way, the moon does have an atmosphere. It's very weak, but it does have an atmosphere.
Yeah, not enough for sound to travel through.
Okay. All right. So, Fight the Flat Earth, you want to, while he's looking for that, give us your strongest evidence for why we went to the moon. Let's flip it.
Okay. Well, the fact that when we did the original moon landings, it wasn't just watched by agencies and stuff. There was countless like radio operators around the world that were tracking what was going on. So there's so many independent sources that verified what was happening outside of any government agency. And I don't see why all these independent people would have been tracking something that was a hoax. And in fact, there was points during the mission where NASA had to rely on some like civilian infrastructure to actually relay messages because they were outside of communications range of NASA equipment. So my strongest evidence for the fact we went to the moon landing is that everything around the moon landing corroborates that. And even Russia confirmed that America went to the moon. If it was all faked, why would Russia then confirm that America went to the moon? And then you've got all the recent landers and stuff that have been up there sending us great images. I've sent David some images showing photographs of the landing sites taken from orbiters. There is rocks and stuff that we've collected from the moon and brought back that could only have formed in an atmosphere like the moon, in a condition like on the moon. They couldn't have formed on the Earth after asteroid impacts and stuff. The way that they then formed shows that they were not formed in a gravitational influence of the Earth. It was the moon that they came from. All the evidence points to the same thing, and none of the evidence contradicts itself. So that's my strongest thing, is that there's all this backup from independent sources and every other agency saying the same thing.
Merle, by the way, I see you in the live chat commenting. Hold on 1 second, Merle, I see you in the live chat commenting. We didn't mute you. I was just asking a second ago if you were still here with us. So we're actually trying to talk to you there. So you can say something now and let's see if we can hear you. I'm not getting anything. Dave, does he have any in his audio levels?
He's having connection problems, I think.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. We just said in the live chat that we were we must have muted him. We didn't mute you, Merle. There must be a connection with your. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead, Kimo.
There's so many. I mean, I'm just thinking of so many different things now. Things like rockets. Rockets, we all know that rockets simply do not work in space. Rockets need an atmosphere to push off. It hasn't been demonstrated. We haven't observed rockets working or flying around in space. We see things like wires being suspended. There's an array of things that we could go through to show that this whole thing was fabricated. But for me, the main reason, again, is to hide the shape of the Earth. If you have a hoax, a moon landing, you convince people you've gone to the moon. People look at these pictures and pretty much settles it for them. But you've got to ask the question, why haven't we gone back? Why don't we go to the moon today? A lot of people who would be interested in that, but it's simply not possible. So for me, today shows that we cannot go back to the moon.
Okay, I'll respond to the rockets and space thing first.
Sure.
Spurskimo, can you tell me how a rocket creates thrust?
No, I'm not a rocket scientist. I don't know anything about rockets. I just know, as far as I understand, you would need an atmosphere for a rocket to work. So what I need to know is how a rocket works in a medium that has no atmosphere.
Right, it's because of Newton's laws of motions. It's as simple as that. There is something coming out the back of that rocket. There's a mass moving, so there's an equal and opposite reaction. The rocket moving. What happens is, at the point that the gas is leaving the rocket, right, it heats up and expands. That creates a differential.
Hold on, slow down. I'm confused.
Right?
Yeah, but I don't get what you mean, though.
As the gas is expanding,
guys, hot. You have to talk one at a time. Like the Flat Earth, I think he's wanting you to clarify one point.
Yeah, just slow down a second. Slow down. So we've got the rocket on Earth, right? It leaves Earth. It's firing up. We see all the fire, the smoke. It reaches the vacuum, and then for me, as I understand it, it goes out. There is now no more fuel. There is now nothing for it to push off. What happens at this moment?
Well,
talk me through it from Earth with an atmosphere.
So you have different stages of the rocket launch. The first stage, big ass rocket, fires the big flame, rocket goes up into space. Okay. Once it's up there's usually
slow down. Rocket is in our atmosphere. It's using everything that we know. Yes, it's pushing off the atmosphere, and then
it's not pushing off the atmosphere.
When it reaches this vacuum, is there fuel? What's going on? What is it using? What is it burning?
Well, that's the one thing I was trying to say. It's not pushing off the atmosphere because that's not how it travels, right? That's what I was trying to explain about the way that the rocket creates the thrust in space. So starting from the ground, obviously the rocket has the stage 1 boosters, fires them all off, and it's not the thrust against the ground and everything that makes it move necessarily. It's the force created inside the gas tank, which has an equal and opposite force to the fuel and stuff coming out the back. Okay, so it's creating thrust as it's going up. That's called your first stage. When it gets into space, you have MECO, main engine cutoff. Right, you get rid of those big rockets, the first stage. Then you got your second stage rockets, which fire. So then they're going.
Is it in an atmosphere or in a vacuum?
This is now in space.
In a vacuum or in an atmosphere?
Yeah. So you're now in space in a vacuum.
So hold on. Why doesn't things get sucked in? Why, it's in a vacuum.
What do you mean sucked in?
Like the rockets, like we saw that tanker, it was sucked in. So this rocket now goes into a vacuum, yeah. And you're saying it's completely safe. It's able to push off. How are you able to demonstrate this? This is
right.
Can I jump in?
Right, I've sent David a video that shows that actually demonstrates thrust moving something without a medium. You want to see that?
Let's get a quick sound check. Sorry.
Whoa.
Merle,
Can anyone hear?
you're a bad
Merle, you have been taken over by Skynet, bro. You need to unplug or
Darth Vader.
turn it off on or something.
What's that?
Oh wow. You have a very evil robot sound to you.
Choppy, yes, Mel.
All right.
But
we really have a problem with this idea of everything that you're describing at the moment here, Fight the Flat Earth, is in an atmosphere.
Wait a second.
Say Dave.
Dave's
talking. When Dave's talking, there's something bad's happened. What, Dave?
I was just going to say that. Does a pipe bomb need the atmosphere to explode? You know what a pipe bomb is? Would a pipe bomb explode if a pipe bomb? You know what a pipe bomb is, right? If you put a pipe bomb,
I've never used a pipe bomb,
but you know what they are, right?
Yeah, I've heard of them. Yeah,
it's a bomb with a bunch of It's a pipe with a bunch of gunpowder in it with sealed caps, and you put a fuse through one of the caps. Mm-hmm. So inside that pipe there's really not air, it's full of gunpowder. Okay,
it's really not. Well, we're still in the atmosphere, right?
No, if you put that pipe
bomb, trying to differentiate what you're not understanding.
Can I finish, please, Chemo? Chemo, can I please finish?
Sorry, go ahead.
If I put that pipe bomb in a vacuum chamber and light that fuse after I light the fuse, because the fuse has its own oxygen, so does the gunpowder. They're going to burn regardless of whether there's air present or not. And that pipe bomb is still going to explode. A rocket is nothing more than a pipe bomb with a hole at one end for that gas to escape. So when that gas escapes, it's pushing off the interior of the engine and exiting the nozzle. After it pushes off the interior of the engine, it's pushing a rocket forward and exiting backwards. At the same time, that's that.
You wouldn't get any momentum
reaction.
This way. How would you get momentum and push? How is that possible?
Because the gases are expanding from burning, just like they do in your car when you have an internal.
Yeah, I mean, I guess theoretically, this does sound like you probably have the equation, mathematics to explain. But I don't think.
Wait! Let him finish. Let him finish what he was saying. Go ahead, Kimo. No, wait, Dave. Kimo was in the middle of responding.
Yeah, I mean, I was just saying that, it does sound, theoretically like this would work if we were on a globe and we, a vacuum was like, but the thing is, you're unable to demonstrate this. So, this is where you come and stop. The explanations are good, but the demonstrations are poor. Like the flat Earth.
Except for all the demonstrations of rockets going into space that people witness all the time from Port Canaveral on the other side of the state from me. So, I'm just going to put that out there.
Dave, you said Fight the Flat Earth, you said you had a video that you sent to Dave you wanted to play?
Yeah. I just sent you a video of Labs.
Somebody's got this playing in the background, or I'm getting some echo again from somebody. Merle's in?
It's Merle.
Okay, Merle, you might want to mute until you...
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah,
now
yeah,
we
you
can
sound
hear
good
you
now.
now.
Finally, like
just
I've just had nothing but glitches and like
listen. That's the
my
story of this
internet
show's
went
life.
down. This is
We have
Is it
glitches every
really?
day. Yeah, not. I mean,
Right, okay.
what's happening to you is not us, but I'm talking about like on our side in terms of some things that we have
Mhm.
going on. It's not affecting you. Like that's on your end, but we know what you mean. All right, Dave. Let's play the video.
Sorry for the interruption. Yeah, it's just been quite strange.
All right, here we go with the video.
Is this on the main channel? Oh, okay, I see it.
Okay, today I'm going to be testing if a rocket works in a vacuum chamber.
Right,
But I'm not going to be using a traditional rocket. What I'm going
30.
Sorry?
Take it,
What was that? What was that, Craig?
Take it forward to, I'm just trying to get the right bit. Yeah, 4 minutes 20, yeah, 4 minutes 20, 4 minutes 15.
Okay.
Close enough.
Here's pretty good vacuum.
It's pulling the vacuum on that.
Whoa!
Pressurized.
Whoa!
Now take it forward to 6 minutes.
So you have a liquid bubbling in a vacuum.
Yeah. Right.
I think
Now,
it's
what that's
demonstrating
demonstrating, what just happened was they took all of the air out of that vacuum, out of that chamber, which caused the gases inside the can to expand and eventually explode. Now, the reason why I've shown you this is because if David can get the right bit here, just at 6 minutes-ish, it shows you that as the liquid leaves the chamber, leaves the can, that it makes
Fill
the can
with
move.
the CO2
before the
gas.
liquid
You can
touches
see
the
as
edge
it
of the
clicked
can.
through a few more flames, the needle.
You got the right bit there, David?
I think so.
Yeah, there. Here we go.
Yeah, it's moving.
So you can see here that the can is moving before the liquid even touches the outer walls of the chamber, which demonstrates the fact that you don't need it to thrust off of anything. It is merely the fact that the mass is leaving the can that makes it move before the stuff that comes out even touches the edge of the chamber. And the reason it does that is because of Newton's laws of motion. Something is coming out of one end, so there has to be an opposite reaction, which is the can moving the other way. This demonstrates that rockets can work in a vacuum.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Does
you
it
say
though?
the rocket.
Does it
Yes,
really?
absolutely does.
So, like when they're on the moon and they wanted to come back, like into the lander, right? How did they thrust off the moon back to Earth?
The same way that they would have any other. I don't
So
understand
how
the
did they
question.
how did they get combustion on the moon?
Because the fuel contains an oxidizer.
What kind of oxidizer is that?
Oxygen. The fuel literally contains oxygen so that it can burn in a vacuum.
How
and
much?
what has NASA verified that, or where are you getting that
Yes,
information?
that's a well-known. That's not like a secret thing that nobody knows. This is a well-known fact that oxidizer is part of what you have to make the fuel burn in space. This isn't a secret.
What space? What space?
All right, let's not talk semantics because we all know what space.
No, I'm not talking. If you can't clearly define definitively with
We know
exact,
what space is
precise
outside of our atmosphere
details
in a vacuum.
what space
One at a time.
is,
One at a time.
I think you've got an issue there.
Well, I can
So if
define
he
what
can't-
space is. Space is outside of our atmosphere. It's what our universe consists of. It's the bits between the planets and the sun. space is
So
everything
like,
out there.
Is it dark matter? Is it like what is
Dark
it?
matter is a possible part of space. That's matter. That's not. I mean, are you talking about space time? Are you talking about the vacuum of
No,
space?
I'm saying what is like we've got air, right? Like
Merle,
you can see
Merle, your mic,
combustion in
your mic,
air.
man.
No,
You're- You're back.
Your mic is
Yeah,
spazzing out.
Naked, dude.
Spazzing out. Kimo, you want to pick up where Merle's going with that?
Well, I just think he's trying to find out what it is space actually is. You're comparing it to a
Space is
vacuum.
the absence of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He gave you his definition. Do you accept his definition so that we're all on the same page? That space is the area in between planets and what else did you say? Flat Earth.
It's just everything that's out there, everything between the planets and the stars
But I'm
and the
just
asteroid.
wondering, why are you guys smirking? Like you can't explain what space is.
I literally just did.
Hey,
No, hold on now. Now, don't deflect. I mean, we weren't talking.
No one's
like, you want us
deflecting.
to
I'm
define
asking you a
space-
direct
Shut up! I
question.
am talking. Hey, I'm talking.
You shut up. Don't talk to me like that.
I'm a moderator.
Who the fuck are you,
Relax. Relax, everyone. Relax. We're just starting. All right. G, what are you
Who's
saying?
this guy? Look at him smirking and like, you guys are just imposters.
We're imposters now.
Well,
Okay,
I think
let's
to be
go back
fair
to
though, he
conversation.
he answered your question. Now, now that you know what his
He
definition
didn't
of
answer
space
my
is.
question.
I
I'm
did. I said
going
it
to
was the
hold
area.
you all to. No, we're not going to move until the question gets answered properly. How do you achieve combustion in the vacuum of space?
Using an oxidizer in your fuel.
Mm-hmm.
That's
a
the
simple question
weakest
answer. Sorry?
answer I've ever heard in my life.
But it is
No,
the
it's
answer.
not. It is the exact answer. That it's
It's
the
the
only
exact
answer.
answer as well now, guys.
Yes.
So there's 648 people watching,
Merle, fix your
right?
mic. Fix your mic,
And
please.
the flat Earth is sitting there telling the world that there's some oxidizer in some like fuel that can achieve combustion on the moon and safely land humans back to Earth.
Correct.
Yes, Mr. Dalek, I did.
The fuel doesn't land people back on Earth. That's just stupid to say.
I mean,
But
the
he
fact
answered-
that
but he
fuel
answered
contains
your
an
question.
oxidizer isn't a new bit of information. This is well known.
Yeah, your mic, Merle, is like really
awful,
really roboting bad.
The
Yeah, just let me
reason
say
I'm
this.
smirking, Merle, is because
Fight the
these are
Flat
very
Earth did answer
simple.
your question. He answered your question about what space is. He answered you how rockets are able to achieve liftoff in space on the moon. So where do we go from here? You might not accept his answer, but where do we go from here? How do you refute him?
Do you deny that oxidizers are a thing?
Are we still here?
Did we lose them? Did they quit?
Spurs?
They're here. They're both here.
Yeah.
Okay. So now that he answered your question, where do we go from here?
Yeah. So I've shown you that rockets can work in space. I've shown that there is Well, I've explained how there's oxidizers in the fuel to help keep the combustion. So what's the next bit of misunderstandings that you have?
Well, you give an explanation, like I said, theoretically.
No, it wasn't theoretically.
Well, Fight the Flat Earth.
You haven't
gotta let him finish.
You've shown a can in a vacuum. You haven't shown a rocket working in space.
Right. What that can shows is that thrust can be achieved without a medium, which was your question. So there we go. Now we can move on.
We were talking about a rocket working in space. It's very different to this little box. There's a vacuum. But I mean, again, we just have to agree to
that chamber.
Well,
yeah, you can't
is my
compare
mic
that.
back?
small chamber to the vacuum of to space, right?
Why not?
Because you're not putting a little rocket inside that vacuum. You're putting a can,
which in all intents and purposes was a rocket. By expelling gas, which is exactly what a rocket does to travel.
Yeah, but that was that's supposedly controlled. This rocket's going to the moon, right? It's directed, right? You would have to show direction, controlled, not just something exploding in a small chamber, right? You haven't demonstrated a rocket working in space, which is what the question was. You've shown a can explode.
You haven't demonstrated that we haven't landed on the moon, but you don't see us demanding evidence that we haven't landed on the moon. I mean, you haven't presented evidence.
My mic working again? There's a guy in the bottom left.
In my lifetime, I've never witnessed the moon landing. This is supposedly before my time. So
Chemo, hold that thought. You're next. Merle, I'm gonna have to disconnect you. I'm gonna have to disconnect you if you can't fix that mic. You're coming in like.
What's wrong with my mic?
Let me talk.
It sounds
really bad.
It sounds like you have It sounds like you have extra programs on your computer running or something that are taking up your.
No, I don't have anything like that.
Well, here's what you need to do, Merle. Close down your computer and reboot it, and then use that same link and come back in. Maybe that'll reset whatever you've got going on. But when you talk, it sounds like very bassy, like if you turned up the bass in the song. I mean, it's just you can't hear what you're saying, just that you're speaking. So reboot your computer and try and come back in. You use that same link.
All right, David, I've just sent you another picture. Could you just bring this up for me, please?
Okay, can we move on, or are we gonna? Can we? Because I mean, again, I'm not really prepared for the moon hoax. Like it's
well,
it's rather late.
I mean,
so we can talk about
Hold on, you're sitting there saying that we haven't provided you any kind of proof that rockets can fly in space or whatnot, when the only evidence that we have being actual rockets flying in space, you would just say is CGI or doesn't actually show that it's flying in space. So I'm just kind of curious, exactly what kind of evidence would you actually consider? But I have a sneaking suspicion that you just have an unfalsifiable narrative that won't allow any kind of actual evidence. It wouldn't allow.
What we're looking for, because the problem with NASA and these space agencies, they have a thing with cutting and splicing and all these types of things. Now, what we're asking for is very simply a uncut from start to finish of the venture. So if you're starting from the ground, I mean, I could show you a 10-hour or a 15-hour flight, whatever, from Europe to America, uncut. People do this. People watch things like this. They want to see complete from start to finish, uncut. When it comes to NASA, they have a problem with showing from start to finish. Everything is in short segments, small segments. 2 minutes here, 5 minutes here, 7 minutes here, then cut. We would like to see from the ground a camera, uncut, the same one camera. So if they want to have 10 cameras and switch cameras, they should have at least one feed where it's a continuous, clear, wide view of everything. We can see the transition from this atmosphere to this so-called vacuum, flying around in space, working as you say it works. What we get is flying towards this vacuum, and then they cut. And then they do all kinds of fantastic things where we just don't know what they're doing. So that's what we're asking for. Very simple. Is an uncut.
I've just sent David a video of exactly that.
Of what?
Of a rocket
flying around.
A camera on the side of a rocket showing it go from ground to space. It took me 20 seconds.
How long is this video?
4 minutes odd.
So hold on. So let's get this right. So I thought rockets went around your ball, they orbit the ball and then go into space. Do they just go straight up now?
Spurs, I do not know where you got that idea from. They don't orbit the Earth to go into space. They curve towards the west to help with the Earth's the fact that the Earth is spinning, they use that extra velocity to give them a boost to get into space, but they do not orbit the Earth to get into space. They do that once they're in space.
What do they do? Do they go around half of the ball, quarter of the ball? What do they do before they get into space?
Well, I've just sent a video to David. You can watch it and you can see it. Spurs, I've got to ask, have you ever done any research? Because that took me 20 seconds to find a video of a rocket showing it from ground to space. In fact, it's titled Inside a Rocket from Takeoff to Orbit.
Oh, let's have a look at this video now then. It's being played right now. How long is it?
12.
So there's your first cut. Why did they...
What's the time cut?
Right, go to 30 seconds and it shows it from the actual rocket.
Right, there's your first camera switch. Why? Not necessary. Again, this is what I'm about to show you that it's going to show you now
one camera.
Guys, yeah, we have to. You can't talk over each other. It just sounds garbled. You know, that's my biggest pet peeve. Where's the timestamp that we can go to? Because we can't watch the whole 4-minute video.
From 30 seconds, it shows the from lift.
Again, this is the thing, though, Kyle. You see, the problem you saying we can't watch the whole thing. There are people who need to see the whole thing in order to end this debate. Now,
well, I say that because let me tell you why I say that. For a DMCA for copyright, I don't want to get hit by.
Okay, that's fine. Well,
the owner of this.
Either way, okay, that's fine. That's fine. But either way, this is going to be cut. This will be cut. It's not going to be. Launch the video, then play it. Let's have a look.
Yeah, let's have a look.
So we go up. See now, look at this. Why cut there? They should keep that same camera looking down at the Earth. I mean, what is this? Right, this should be the camera position. So now it could have already done something by now. Switch cameras. This could be fake. This could be CGI. Why did they cut? This is the problem fight that we're up against. Look at the weather, the distortion, all kinds of nonsense going on here. You see?
Sorry, Spurs. I've got to say this is exactly what you asked for. That when it cut to this camera, it showed it just leaving the ground.
No. Now it started
going into
and then it cut. No, go back. Okay. So where was this cut? Let's have a look here.
When it gets to 29 seconds, it's literally just left the ground.
Yeah, so everything looks good. We're satisfied. Will I be satisfied? You know, we can see the ground. Let's see when they cut now, if anything gets cut.
Dave, you play at double speed, probably.
Yeah, that would be a good idea.
Oh no, they might do something CGI like as we're double speeding it.
We'll be able to see it though.
So.
I think.
Yeah, we should be able to see that.
The anticipation's killing me.
I can't bear it.
Okay, so we're still in the atmosphere. Yeah. Heading towards this vacuum. What was that there? What's going on there? What happened here? Go back a second. What was that?
Back up a little bit, Dave.
That was a 9/11 blackout there. TV fakery. You see?
Oh, please not bring that shit up in here, okay?
Yeah, but why did they black out there? What's happened there? What's this switch?
Maybe let's see the blackout on the camera for a millisecond.
Maybe it was a glitch
He's
here.
talking about this little cutout here.
Maybe it didn't happen there.
Yeah, I didn't see it happen again.
Didn't happen again. No, it's fine. But look at this now. What's going on here? Why did they need to show the separation like that?
They showed the separation
because it's for TV to make it look good. And then they've gone back to the exact same point.
Okay, so show the separation on a separate stream, not on this stream.
Because
again, why do not
from a different camera? So what?
Well, what do you mean? This is what we're asking. We're asking you to show an uncut.
They're not obligated to prove it to you. They're not. They're not.
Oh, now you're
doing this to prove it to you.
I mean, this happened. This was, from what it looks like, this was a while back. Does it have the year on this, Dave? Like when this was recorded?
This was
like when it came out.
Oh no.
It looks like before the footage looks like before we had the internet, where you'd be able to see different stream angles. So it's probably cut like this for TV or what?
The video was posted in 2009.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the launch. When was the launch done?
I'm not entirely sure what launch that is, to be honest.
2009.
Yeah, because it looks like this would be before we would be, you'd have the platform to be able to show different streams. If this was cut for TV, then that's why. It's probably just a package so that you could, it would show it for like the news or whatever. That's just speculation. I don't know.
I put the link to the video in the chat so anyone else can watch it.
I mean, it's obviously done for production value.
So this is the problem, right? We say to you guys what we want.
I also
tell you.
Schemo, I also want to point something out. You see how that plume behind it is getting wider and filling more and more of the screen as it goes up? That's because the pressure gradient. There is less atmosphere that high up than there is down at sea level where it was launched from. So therefore, the gases expand further and further.
Yeah. So hold on. Go back.
Hold up.
Are you saying now we're in the vacuum?
Don't interrupt me. I'm saying
it's
actually easier for the thing to travel through the vacuum because there's no air resistance, and it can expand faster because there's less resistance out of the back of the rocket too.
Okay. We're going to say, Kimo?
We're very much in the vacuum of space, which you can see from that.
No. Keep that video up. Keep that video up. Go back to that video. Go back now, please. Go back before the flames extinguish. All right?
The flames are not extinguished.
The flames haven't extinguished.
See? Well, the majority
of
where you
don't see the fire anymore.
Let's go back to when we see lots of flames and things like that. Yeah. Okay, so now here we are in atmosphere. Yeah.
Just on the edges, yeah. We'd be, very high up in the pressure gradient.
What do you mean, just on the edges? Why isn't this?
As you see, the further it goes up, that plume is getting larger, which means that they're in less and less pressure.
If this was real, okay, you try to have a vacuum next to a gas pressure with this action happening, and you would see a separation with this.
That's the point. This is a pressure gradient. That's the point. It's not a.
There is no solid barrier. It's a gradient from 14.7 psi at sea level to 0 psi in the vacuum of space. And you can see, you can literally see it in front of you, traversing into the point where it's pretty much 0 psi, because now that plume of gas is covering the entire frame of the picture, because there is no pressure to keep it condensed. It is expanding a lot faster than it would do in the atmosphere.
So you think they're in the vacuum of space now?
Pretty much, I'd say so, looking at the plume of gas coming from that and the curvature of the Earth that we can see.
Yeah. There's your curve too, by the way.
Yeah, well, again, unless this can be demonstrated, gas pressure without a container.
What do you think that is? That's what that is a demonstration, Chemo. I don't know what else you'd call it.
But why did the video just cut then? What happened here? Where's the rest of the video?
That's the end of the video.
Why?
Why?
Because they were in space.
They were in space.
Well, it got to the vacuum, and then it ended.
Wasn't that what you wanted to see, from it going from the ground to space?
In the final moments, it reached what supposedly would have been the vacuum in the last few seconds there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the video cut.
Well, we can't help
maybe the person that put this particular video on YouTube, that was all they wanted to show. I mean, that video wasn't from NASA or anything. It was from somebody who obviously has an interest in rockets in space, and they put that on YouTube for us to see, that rocket going from the ground to space, which is exactly what you've been asking for. So
which
already I've demonstrated that a rocket can travel in a vacuum of space because you don't need a medium to push off of, and I've shown a video of a rocket going from the ground to the vacuum of space.
Sound check.
You
showed a cut, so you're satisfied with a cut video.
Sound check.
I'm satisfied that video shows what I wanted. The thing is, I've seen plenty of other videos for a bunch of Red Rhetoric's videos that are completely uncut, that show the same thing from the ground. Seeing the rocket go up, seeing the plume of gas get bigger and bigger as it goes into the vacuum of space. You know, there's plenty of other videos that show the same thing from different angles.
Are you guys astronauts?
Yes.
Right. So you're not, are
Absolutely. You want to see my T-shirt?
So you can't verify or deny anything you're stating here. It's like Wikipedia or something, yeah?
Well, it's my understanding of physics and my research. So, and the verifiable data from probably millions of sources. So no, it's
millions of sources.
Wikipedia.
Millions of sources.
We literally watched a rocket, fly into space, get launched into space.
You watched animation there, Godless, because they cut the video. That's what we were trying to tell you. When they cut the video,
the definition of animation is the same as everybody else's.
Right, Godless.
Hey, guys,
when they
listen, one at a time. Let people finish.
They cut from reality to animation. That's why they have to cut. That's what we've been trying to tell you. Go back to the beginning of the video, you'll see reality, then they cut, then they go to animation.
they cut and go to animation.
The person that when you watch that video, the person that made this video, it just shows the separation from one point, then on the ground, then goes back to the exact same point in the video, showing the exact same thing as before. There is no, you can play those two frames side by side, and they'd be exactly the same. There's no animation. It doesn't change to a different thing, Spurs. And when this video was made, which was obviously way before 2009, those kind of animations, like,
but there is a reason
what you're doing is just complete and utter assumptions and speculations. The physics shows that you may do it. Spurs, please, I'm talking. Right. Okay, the physics makes sense. The fact that we can move something without a medium is a fact that has been demonstrated many, many times. You are not giving any evidence for the fact we haven't gone to the moon.
Neither.
Merle, you're right.
Merle, that's it. Third time's the charm, bud. You can't get your system working.
Listen, guys, let me, on that point, since we're not going to agree with the rockets thing, let me ask this question. Kimbo, do you accept that the moon is what science says it is in terms of its shape, its position in space, and all that?
How to phrase this? So, you use the word science, okay? What we've understood now is that you use the word science very loosely. And I don't think you quite know what it means when, science is involved. Okay, so you're saying that science says the moon is whatever they say it is. Yeah, I would have to ask, well, how do they know? What does science say about the moon?
I'm talking about the physical characteristics. Hold on, the physical characteristics that you can see. Is it round? And is it as many miles away as they say it is? Those are the two questions that I'm interested in.
No, the sun and the moon is close. It's observably close. What it's made up of, we don't know. We've never been there, obviously. So again, science would tell us this, but we would have a hard time manipulating variables to know exactly what the moon is and things like that.
Is it round? That's what is it a sphere? That's what I'm interested in. Is it a sphere?
Again, that's questionable. We've never seen behind the moon. We don't know what's on the other side. We see the same face anywhere on the Earth. But yeah, we see it's around. We see around, whether it's a sphere or a disc is questionable. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to make sure we were on the same page there. I wanted to be sure that you're consistent, because if the moon can be a sphere, I was wanting to know why the Earth couldn't be one. But at least you're consistent in your skepticism about the moon. All right, Fight the Flat Earth. Go ahead.
So much there that he said wrong. I suppose I could try and give some proof that we have been to the moon.
Sure.
So, could you show image 7, David, please? Not that one. Yeah, this. Right. So this is something that was collected on the moon and brought back. It's basically a glass spheral that was formed after a meteorite impact. And the way that we know that this is from the moon is because of the way it's formed. The gravitational force on the Earth would not have allowed it to form like this. The atmosphere on the Earth wouldn't have allowed it to cool in this particular fashion. The way that this particular object, bit of glass, bit of debris from the moon, was formed, and what we can tell about it by the way it was formed, proves that it is from an atmosphere, which is what we say would be on the moon. This would have been impossible to have formed on the Earth. So if the moon landings were fake, where did this come from?
Well, I haven't studied this. How again, it's just a picture. You know, I think
can
we're
send you
in
all
a
the information about this that you like, but the fact is that physics would not have allowed this to form in our atmosphere and in our gravitational influence. The only way that this could have formed in this particular way is in an atmosphere, which is what we say is on the moon. By the way that it was formed, by the way that it was formed, by the composition. So,
yeah, but gathering information, though, Flat Earth, the way that you gather information seems to be, if it's on paper, then it must be true. You don't seem to want to do any kind of physical research, physical experiments, physical testing, and you know, it seems like. Sorry?
I was just going to interject. Can you please name one physical experiment you've done or you will propose that we can do here on Earth to give us an indication about the moon?
This is the natural and physical world, right? So science cannot answer questions about, you know, where we live in terms of the shape of the Earth, what the moon is, what the sun is, the distance. Science cannot answer these questions because we are not able to manipulate these things around us. Science manipulates various things and conducts experiments. So how could you possibly experiment with the moon? You can't. How can you experiment with the stars, the sun, things like that? You can't. So for you to say that you're using science to determine things about the natural and physical world is an impossibility.
Sorry, I think your definition of science is very, very different to everybody else's, because it is with science that we can confirm these things. It is through the advances of science and our knowledge and our tools that we have built using science that allow us to determine certain things. I mean, what Anthony does, Anthony never actually tries to prove anything. All he does is try to disprove that an experiment was an experiment or something like that. He never actually tries to deal with facts. All he does is copy Nathan and try to recite logical fallacies, which he really doesn't understand. What Sleeping Warrior has never, ever done is actually presented any evidence for his stance. All he ever tries to do is say that something isn't a certain way because he misunderstands how the scientific method is supposed to be put forward into certain things. Like the Cavendish experiment, it has an independent and a dependent variable. The dependent variable was the mass of the weights. The independent variable was the distance between the weights. Those are the things that you need within a scientific experiment to say that it's a scientific experiment, according to Anthony. But that's because he doesn't understand what a scientific experiment is and how to gather data from a scientific experiment. So you can't say that we don't know what science is when we literally use science to explain what we're talking about. Now, go back to those classes.
The things that we are interested in are only, you see, the physical and natural world. Now, you can build any device you like, anything. You can say, I've built a Cavendish, I've built a computer. Doesn't matter. You can apply your hands and build whatever you want. If there is a phenomena in that device, I'm not interested with science. Why? Because I'm only interested in the natural and physical world, things out there that I can't explain. Why does the sun set? Why doesn't the sun shrink on a flat earth? Why is the sun so close? These are the things that I would hope science would be able to answer, not through assumption, through demonstration, through experimentation. But unfortunately, these are things that we cannot vary. We cannot take a piece of the sun and put it in a laboratory and test why it doesn't shrink the way it does. Now, for you to say, I know what the sun is, I know the distance of the sun, when you haven't experimented, you haven't tested, you haven't been there, anything like this, you are simply making a claim, you see? And that's the difference, you see, between your version of science, where you think you can assume your way through, and we would want to know for sure 100% whether it's true or not.
Right. I don't make assumptions ever. I also don't make claims ever. I talk about facts that have been determined through the scientific method. Okay, what you're talking about isn't science. It's Zetic method, which is a bunch of rubbish. Right? There are tools that we use. Wait, I'm talking. Wait, Spurs, I'm talking. Shush. Right? We have tools we have developed that allow us to determine these things because our senses are not good enough. We cannot go and get a bit of the sun. You are right. But what we do have is a robotic probe on the way to the sun to give us more information about its internal components. But what we do know is the sun is a nearly perfect sphere of plasma, 180,000 kilometers away. 180,000, the distance to the sun, 1 AU. Right, so we've got tools that can verify these things, and like simple things like using parallax transit of Venus, we can then use simple trigonometry from that to figure out the exact distance to the sun. So there is verifiable things that everybody can do.
Well, again, you're assuming everything that you're saying to me now is based on an assumption. You haven't made any direct measurement. You are telling me that other people are telling you your reality, and this is where we differ. We are able to check if it's possible to find out these things. This is the difference. So we've found out if these questions can be answered with this method. What we found out is that you can only assume. You can only assume the distance to things. You can only assume the composition of things and the size of things and things like that. You are not physically able to physically measure, or you're not physically able to go to these destinations and find out exactly what they are. And this is where the assumption.
Sorry.
Hold on. Okay, so 2 experiments that we can do to prove the distance of the moon away from the Earth. One experiment are parallax measurements. You can take a measurement of the moon, see how it moves to the sky, see how it changes in angular resolution, or angular size rather, and you can use basic math that is perfectly fine to use in other parts of life that will render the correct measurements there. But strange enough, apparently you doubt the math on that one. Another particular experiment that you could run from here, standing on the face of the Earth, is bouncing lasers off of the moon. You can bounce a laser off of the moon, and using the speed of light, you can actually calculate exactly how far away the moon is. Using that, and that's just a basic, how long does it take for it to travel there, travel back, and then knowing the speed of light, you can determine the distance of the moon away from the sun. So I mean, these things that you say that we can't do with science, we very basically can do it with science. It's just that you do not trust it when it disproves your model.
All right. So, what do you mean when you say with science? You think that measuring something is science?
I think that's part of the scientific method.
Part of the science. So, if it's not actually science, then is it?
Yes.
I don't
Well,
know
if you're
what you
measuring
mean.
something, you're measuring something. Yes. If you're measuring your height, you're measuring your height. If you're measuring your shoe size, this is not like you don't need science to know how tall you are, right?
Well,
right. Can I answer that? Right. Spurs, we've had the conversation about the scientific method before and how it works and the ways that you have to assess something. You ask a question, you look for a phenomena, and you try and explain it, and then you come up with a hypothesis, then you test that hypothesis to figure out if things are real. We've gone through all these things, and we now have the tools and equipment, thanks to using the scientific method, to be able to tell it to do these things. When I figured out the distance to the sun, I didn't. Wait. Let me explain. When I figured out the distance to the sun, I didn't use any figures that anyone had told me. I looked at Venus through a telescope. I figured out the parallax of Venus, and using that, you can figure out how far away Venus is. And then using simple trigonometry, you can figure out how far away the sun is. I didn't get anyone else's information on that. I did that with simply with a lens inside a telescope. All right. So, and we know these things work because we know that trigonometry is an undeniable thing that you can use to calculate distances. So I haven't used anyone else's information. I did the experiment and observations myself, and I came up with values that are exactly the same as the accepted what science says. So I don't know what you mean when you say that I've never done any experiments or that we've never measured anything ourselves, because measuring things doesn't mean just getting a ruler and putting it next to it. We can measure things with many different ways. Radio waves, looking at X-rays and microwave background radiation throughout the universe. We can measure everything because we have developed the tools to do so. Your problem is you don't trust the tools. So, there. Can you deny that you yourself can go and figure out the distance to the sun the same way? Anyone there?
Are they still here?
Are we on the moon?
Spurs?
We're on the moon. No sound.
Did you rage quit?
Okay, cool. We went to the moon.
He's
Yep,
not
that settles
there.
it.
He's not there. He just his call is dropped. I'm still getting a video feed, but no audio.
Well,
I think it's ridiculous. Claims that he claims that science can't give us any kind of indication about what the moon is either made of or its location or anything like that. Like, that's exactly what science does. Is we have a question: how far away is it? Okay, can we design an experiment that can show us how far away it is? Yeah, we can. Boom, there it is. What are the measurements? Oh, look, here are the measurements. Like, that's the scientific method, like in a general way. So I don't understand like what his problem is. I mean, you said that you talked to him before about the scientific method. Is he the fuck that just doesn't understand the scientific method at all?
Put him back on the list, everyone.
You moderated a debate on between me and him, and
oh yeah,
a lot of that was about the scientific method.
Yeah, I remember that now.
He just disputes. He thinks you need to have an answer before you can then come up with explanations. And most of Spur's arguments are just against how science works rather than actually what it discovers.
What's funny is in the chat, they're mentioning quantum eraser, and that reminds me of something. I got an email, or a quantum eraser left a comment on one of our videos and said, "I bet you don't even know you don't know what science is, all this other kind of stuff." And I said, "Okay, well, Here's my email. Email me and come in and we'll talk about it. Do you think that I've heard one word from him in an email? No. So
No.
Quantum Eraser, while we're talking about the list, we're going to add you to the bitch-made list as well, because I gave you the opportunity to come in and prove where I didn't know what
Can you
science
hear
was.
me? Am I coming through?
Well, hello, there you are.
No, I didn't drop out. I was here. I could hear you, but I couldn't. I was saying
Couldn't hear
hello
you.
and couldn't hear me.
We
Okay.
can definitely hear you now.
Now you respond to what Fighter said last.
About the scientific method and that, yeah? That's the last thing I heard.
Yeah, and the fact that there has been experiments and things designed that we've already done that have allowed us to make these measurements easier.
No, but again, we're looking for the cause and effect. Fight the flat Earth. Yes, that's all we're interested in, is the cause of something in the natural world, the physical world. Now, you've built a device, you found a phenomena and said, well, how do I explain this phenomena in the device that I've built? It's easy. It's an easy answer. You are the cause of this phenomena. If you didn't build the device, there'd be no phenomena. Okay, but in the natural world, how do we test these things with science? How do we explain the heliocentric model with science? That's what we're asking for. You see, I don't think you're able to show. I don't think you're able to show with science, following the method, observation, question, research, hypothesis, experiment, and conclusion. I don't think you're able to do that anywhere in the heliocentric model.
I disagree. I explain and show that it's done all the time. Science literally explains the heliocentric model exactly, because we can ask questions and then we can answer them with the model we have, because it makes 100% accurate predictions. And the way that you...
That's not science.
When you're talking about the scientific method, the way you confirm a model works is to see if it makes accurate predictions. And lo and behold, the heliocentric model makes accurate predictions 100% of the time, with no holes, no errors. Everything's understood.
Give an example that you followed using the scientific method in the heliocentric model.
Right. Okay. When I measured, we'll talk about measuring the distance to the sun again. To start with, I asked the question, how far away is the sun?
We're talking about, so the first step would be...
Spurs, I'm talking. Don't interrupt me.
You're not answering the question.
Spurs, I'm talking. Stop interrupting me. Okay.
Go on.
The scientific method. The first part of it is you ask a question. The question I have is, how far away is the sun? Now, the next thing I do is I make an assumption, or an educated guess. Okay. So I say, oh, I think the sun is this far away. And then I design an experiment to test that hypothesis. And if the experiment confirms, the hypothesis of it being a certain way, the experiment was using parallax measurements to figure out the distance to the sun. So following the scientific method, asking a question, making an assumption, designing an experiment, testing the experiment, and making a conclusion that my hypothesis about the distance to the sun is correct. I followed the scientific method. All right? It is very, very simple to do. And Spurs,
hold on.
Method, no matter what you say.
No. You've completely confused. You've completely confused the scientific method here.
No.
Your question was how far away is the sun? This is not a phenomena. First, this is a measurement. This is not a question that science will answer. How far is the sun? Science doesn't need to answer this question. Science answers the natural world that consists of phenomena. Like, why doesn't the sun? Why does the sun set? Why does the sun not shrink? These are the questions that science would try to answer, not how far.
Sorry, I've got to call you out. You're completely
There's
wrong.
no phenomena here. Distance is not a phenomenon.
You don't need a phenomena for the scientific method. You need a question.
You need a phenomena. You start with a question that's a phenomena.
You're giving me cancer. Stop.
So hold on, Godless. So fight the flag. If you're saying that if the question is how tall are you, you need science to answer how tall are you.
Yes,
using the scientific method, I can answer it.
Listen,
And
Spurs,
how
listen,
tall you are.
I'm trying to get this conversation back on track. Please, just let me try to do that, okay? Now, Spurs, Fight the Flat Earth has laid out the experiment and whatnot. I want you to tell me, other than measurements aren't science, like, I want you to tell me what is the issue with the experiment that Fight the Flat Earth has presented here. Why can that experiment not give us the distance to the sun?
Because it's not a question for science. We're asking, this is a question of how far, not what is.
That's not what I asked. That's not what I asked. What did I ask?
What's wrong with his experiment?
Right. What's wrong with his experiment that prevents us from getting the actual distance to the sun? I want you to elaborate on that idea. Like, regardless of whether it's science or not, because you get hung up on that. Regardless of that aspect of it, why is that particular experiment not going to give us a correct answer? Tell us.
Well, it may give you a correct answer, but it's not an answer that would be following the scientific method. That's the point.
I said regardless of the scientific method, it's regardless of science or anything like that. The experiment is going to give us a number of the distance between the Earth and the sun.
No,
what is going to prevent us from getting a correct answer out of that experiment?
How? That's pseudoscience. How is that possible?
No, you just said it may give us the correct answer or not. I want you to elaborate on why it would not give us, because it's not pseudoscience. Don't think about science at this point, even though it is science, but don't think about science at this point. Why is that particular experiment not going to give us the correct distance to the sun?
Because we're measuring something. We want to measure the distance from point A to point B. Yeah?
Okay, so if I measure from my apartment to a mile away from my apartment, does that mean that it's not actually a mile away? Is that like some kind of Illuminati?
It means that you're not using science. You're just making a measurement.
Okay, I don't see how that actually repudiates like my particular argument here. You're saying that the sun is like small and local, yeah?
Yeah, observations show that it's local. Yeah.
Okay, well, given that we can perform this experiment and the experiment gives us 1 AU, meaning 93 million miles away, it kind of like it kind of fucks with your hypothesis there that it's small and local, considering that we have this experiment that can show us that it is actually 93 million miles away.
Yeah, but this is not an experiment. This is what I'm trying to explain to you. You think it's an experiment because you're not understanding what science actually is. You think science tell you how tall a person.
You just say measurements one more time. That because that does not make it not science or not an experiment. Tell me.
What do you think science is?
Hold on, excuse me. This is the point, though, Godless. You're making up your own way how to measure something. That's what I'm saying here.
No, I'm not. I'm not making up.
Well, you are making up. You're saying to measure from A to B, I want to measure it in my way, which is following a method which is not the way to measure from A to B.
Are you sure?
It's a way to measure distant objects.
The way to measure from A to B is to measure from A to B, not come up with an experiment to see how far something is.
What if you can't measure from A to B because it's literally too far away for you to physically measure like that? Then you come up with an experiment to do it.
Yeah, but that's the point, isn't it? Because it's too far away, you say, well, I'm going to come up with my own answer. I've got my own way of measuring it.
That's an experiment to figure it out. Figuring something out using maths and science isn't my own answer.
Yeah, that's your way of
figuring something that isn't a real thing that can give you the distance to the
Earth, right? Another circumference of the Earth, right? Do you think that somebody took a tape measure and literally went around the Earth, or did they use?
No. They assumed the size of the Earth, Kyle. They didn't take a tape measure, which is what they should have done. With a true measurement, you would have the true size. But what they did, they assumed it was this size in order to fit an agenda. That's the point. So the sun is this far, the moon is this distance, stars are this distance, the sun is this size, all based on an assumption.
Right, none of these things are assumptions, Spurs. That's what you keep saying. There is no assumptions. There is measurements
Then how did you
and
measure
data
it then?
to back up what we say.
Again, this is where you I don't know if you don't understand. A measurement is a measurement.
You don't understand what science is. Sorry,
if you're going to measure the shape of the Earth, if you're going to measure the Earth, sorry, not the shape. If you're going to measure the Earth, you have to measure from point A to point B. Otherwise, if you can't do that, if it's out of your reach or out of your realms, you say, let me find another way, my way, that will satisfy me that the Earth is this size. So you've taken the original way of doing something, the normal way, and said, you know what? I can't actually take a huge tape measure. Are you crazy? So I'd have to think of a new way. Well, that's on you. That's your belief. I don't have to believe that.
It's science.
Spurs.
It's not science. It's your. How
yes,
can it be science?
Like, for instance, using radio waves to measure the distance of something is just as valid as taking a tape measure. Is it not?
This is not. It's not an empirical measurement.
No, answer the question. Answer the question, Spurs. Is using radio waves to measure the distance just as accurate and acceptable as using a tape measure? And if not, explain why.
I don't know. Can we use radio waves to measure my height of a house,
yes.
The height of the size of my shoe? You know, can we use radio waves to measure? This is how normal people, regular people, measure things. Now, you were saying because I can't measure the Earth in the way normal people measure things, I have to come up with my own way, my idea of how to measure the Earth.
Let me ask you a question, then, Spurs. Right? Is a ruler and a tape measure, is that a tool?
Of course it's a tool. It's an instrument, right?
Right, okay. And is something that emits radio waves to measure a tool?
It's an instrument, yeah.
The same as a ruler. So
not the same
why
as a ruler, but it's another
device. They're both tools, they're both instruments to do a job. So why is one more valid than the other, according to you? They're both tools designed to do a job.
Well, we're talking about measuring things. Again, people are trying to find...
You can measure the distance with things with radio waves as well as a bit of tape.
What do you mean as well as tape?
That's the relevance of
height with a bit of tape to say you're 6 foot. But I could also use radio waves to get that same data.
So why aren't people then buying little mini radio wave devices from the local warehouse store?
Guys, listen. Does it matter if he calls it science or not? Like, let's to the discussion as a whole. I feel like we're going off on a little bit of a tangent here. No matter what he calls it, whether it be science, math, whatever, does that ultimately matter to the fact that
it does? It does, Kyle. Kyle, it's very important. This is the nuts and bolts of the heliocentric model. We've been told that remember, Neil deGrasse says that we are attacking science. And they're saying that science proves the heliocentric model. So it's very important that we show the world that there is no science, zero science, to support the heliocentric model, and it's based only on assumptions.
What
when a plane is in the air and the pilot has instruments telling him how high he is that making an assumption?
Sorry, say that again. When the pilot is...
If the pilot's in the air, flying his plane, and he's got his altimeter telling him how high he is that an assumption?
No, the device is telling him how high he is, right?
And exactly. So the devices that I use to say how far things are away, exactly the same. Are you not going to believe what that altimeter says because it doesn't follow your twisted version of science?
Well, yeah. Altimeter is a really good example to bring up because, Spurs, I'm assuming that you don't think that there's literally a measuring tape dangling from an altimeter that hits the bottom, or not bottom, but hits the surface of the Earth, and it's like,
I'm not arguing with any of those things. I'm not arguing about those.
Measure. Huh?
Yeah, so... Sorry, speak up, sorry.
Oh, okay, sorry. I didn't realize I wasn't yelling loud enough for you. How do you think an altimeter or whatever figures out how high in the air you are. It's definitely not a tape, measuring tape that's dangling from the freaking aircraft. So how do you think that it's determining it? Because I can guarantee you, it's like a derived measurement from some other measurement that we can actually physically take, like the size of the sun from two different locations, and then using parallax measurements or parallax equations and shit to get the distance of the sun from the face of the Earth. It's going to be based on the exact same thing, but you can accept an altimeter, but you can't accept the parallax measurements. Like, I just feel like you're being very cherry picky at this point.
No. All I'm trying to clear up, Godless, is the science question. Okay. Kyle says, is it important that the labels, and it's very important that people understand that the things that we know are based on assumptions, not actual science where it's testable, repeatable, observable, things like this, demonstratable. It has to be demonstratable, things like this.
I'm so glad that you brought this up, Spurs. Tell me, how are the experiments that we have brought up here not testable, repeatable, falsifiable? All of the things that make a scientific experiment, explain to me how those things are not part of science or do not conform to what science would have it conform to. Please, I would love for you to explain this to me.
Because it depends on what question you're asking. If you're asking a question about the physical and natural world, you follow the scientific method. If you're asking a question about, a ball dropping, will it drop every time I let it go? You would repeat this, observe this, and test this. So you would say, yes, I now know the ball will drop from my hand because I let it go 1,000 times, whatever. And that's demonstrating something that happens physically, right, with the ball and you. Okay, so you're talking about the natural world. Again, you have a problem, huge issues with the words natural and physical world. We're talking about where we live, the sun, the moon, stars, space, as you call it, vacuums, if there is a vacuum, atmosphere, the natural world. This is what the science answers this question very specifically. And this is where,
and you're going off on tangents at this point, so I am going to interrupt you. Tell me how the methods or whatnot that we have presented here do not follow those particular line items that you gave for what a scientific experiment is. How are they not repeated? How are they not falsified?
The phenomena like the Cavendish and that pendulum, I forget what it's, Foucault's pendulum, are man-made. The phenomena in the experiment is man-made, not natural. That's where the disconnect is happening.
Wait. Sorry, I've got to correct you there. The phenomenon within the Cavendish experiment of mass attracting mass is not man-made. Where'd you get that from?
Well, where have you seen a natural Cavendish? In the wild, in the forest.
The mass attract. Right. Do you know what the Cavendish was for?
Yeah, to show mass attracting mass.
Not just that, it was designed to help weigh and figure out the density of the planet. That's why the Cavendish experiment was done.
Yeah, and also to show mass attracting mass. So when they saw mass attracting mass, they said, oh, what's the cause of this? What's happening? Why are these two balls attracting to each other? Is it gravity? Or is it because of atmosphere, wind? We don't know. This is why I say you need to do the Cavendish in a vacuum or on the moon.
And that's been done. I actually sent you a video of Cavendish being done in a vacuum. That's been done.
Well, let's have a look then.
I sent it to you like after our last conversation. I'll have to find it and send it to you again. Again, you can go on YouTube and just find it yourself. But
it's not for my eyes only, right? Show the world this experiment. We want to see. Everything seems to be behind closed doors.
I literally just said you can find it on YouTube yourself because I did within 20 seconds of searching last time.
He's going to pull it up.
Like the other video that I found within 20 seconds. I'm fed up with doing your research for you, Spurs.
What's the name of the video? What's the name of the video?
All right, give me 2 seconds to find it.
I'm going to pull it up so we can watch it.
All right, so people have mentioned that we're not actually on the moon anymore. So after the Cavendish thing, I don't know how much time we really have left in the show, but I really want to know, what experiment Spurs would have to prove that the moon is small and local, and that
there is no experiment. Stop using the word experiment. You're using the word experiment incorrectly. Yes, and
No, we're not.
the only way to show where the moon is to either A, go there, or actually take a literal measurement. Otherwise, you're going to use your way, your own mind, your own way, your own design to figure out what you're comfortable with, to say, yep, the moon is this distance, without taking an actual measurement.
Well, fuck me for using the basic laws of nature in order to prove how far away some shit is.
No,
right,
you
Dave,
need to take a measurement. You just want to know how far is the sun.
These measurements are man-made. Like, men are the ones that decided how long an inch is and how long
I
a
agree.
kilometer is.
Yeah, I agree. Man did.
So I don't get why you would say, hold on, I'm talking. I don't get why you would say that, oh, you got to take the actual measurement when that doesn't even conform to the bullshit that you're spitting here.
Okay, so let's not get confused. Phenomena. We only answer the questions with science if it's a phenomenon. Yeah, so something like science only answers this. The phenomenon.
No.
Only. You don't need science to tell you how tall you are. You don't need science to tell you what day it is. You don't need science to tell you what time it is, right? You need science to tell you. You need science to tell you when something happens that you just cannot explain and it needs testing. Very simple, guys.
Let's watch this video. Let's watch this video. Dave?
Sorry, I'm
ready?
Trying to find the one.
I don't have it yet, so I can't really start it, Kyle. Sorry.
All right. After this, I'll read super chats because we are pushing on the 2-hour mark. So I guess I'll tell you what. I'll go ahead and read some while we wait for that video to be found. That way we can get knocked out. Demonic Davro says, "Come on, duck detectives, find out the business." I hope we did. Carlos Pagan says, "I want to debate Larry the Cable Guy." Gee, somebody called you Larry the Cable Guy. The Athens 619 says, Spurskimo always making excuses because he can't keep up with his BS. Rexada says, you would think that if it was all faked, NASA would have done a better job of editing the footage, so not hammering the stuff to be there. Yeah, that's a good one. Hey, G, can you hear me? G. Godless. Can you hear me?
Hey.
Godless. He said he'll be back soon. He's gone away. He's
Carlos Pagan said, I want to debate Larry the Cable Guy. Talking about you.
Yeah, I actually sort of talked to him like right after he did that particular thing. I think he said that he was just trolling. So I think I'm welcome. I welcome any debate anybody wants to have with me, as long as it's not measurements aren't science.
And Aaron Bates says sound travels. Listen to bone conducting headphones. Robert Williams did not leave a message, but thank you for the super chat. Confight said petition to have flat earthers test if pipe bombs work by standing next to one as it goes off. The Pooch says now we're getting into the territory of I don't accept any answer coming from your site because of who you are. Roxana says I love how flat earthers think that space agencies are obligated to give them the exact footage that they want. Insidious Fit says if NASA faked the moon landing, why haven't we been back? Or went to Mars or Jupiter? I mean, it's all fake after all. They could theoretically go anywhere, right? Oh, that's a good point. How would you answer that? If we faked the moon landing first of all, why would they come out and say we can't go back? We don't have the technologies. Why not just fake another trip?
Because of technology. Technology has advanced so much in terms of for the public. I mean, so we have cameras, we have camcorders. We'd be able to see that, much more high quality than what they showed back in 1969. So yeah, they would never get away with it today. People would probably find out where the studios, were. There'd be a bigger investigation. People, the people who wouldn't buy it or wouldn't believe it, they would look into it a lot more. They just wouldn't get away with it today. There's no chance. No
As you
way.
say, we have all these cameras and technology and stuff like that. Why haven't we seen the edge of the Earth?
The edge, you need to go high enough. It's being guarded, of course. You know, there's an Antarctic treaty which prevents people from exploring where we live. There's people are talking about exploration, so we are looking for you know, in the future to find the edge or the wall.
You know, the Antarctic Treaty specifically does not say that. It says that the Antarctica is to be used for scientific research, and that it's a collective agreement amongst nations to only use Antarctica for that, and also to share the thing that was done.
How I understand it, this has been a 500-year, probably longer plan. Okay, so if we look at all of the countries throughout the world that have been colonized or taken over or have been, you know, at war, from America to Australia. So these countries are on the border of the flat Earth. So we've got Australia, we've got America, we've got Brazil, which is not in a very good position. We've got South Africa, which is near the edge. We've got Russia, which, you know, they overthrew the Tsars when they needed to, which covered the northern area. So they pretty much, I've got a video, I made a video about it, how what NASA do with the ISS, they strategically cut the feed, cut the cameras when they reach certain parts of the flat Earth, like the wall. So if they fly,
how do you explain the live feeds where, I mean,
let me explain what happened. So I was on Discord. I was speaking with all Earthers. I completely didn't believe in the ISS. I was like, there's nothing up there. It's all fake. It's all false. And they were like, have you even looked? Have you even watched the live feed? So I was like, okay, let's have a look at the live feed. We watched it, and we could see Africa really clearly, the coast. I was like, oh, this is interesting. It looks really clear. I was like, just brainstorming, saying we could fire a rocket or something so the ISS could see it live. So as it was traveling down the coast of Africa, it was approaching South Africa. And I said to the people in the room, if this is real and it approaches South Africa, they will cut the feed. So this was before they cut the feed. I said they will definitely cut the feed. And there was about 15, 20 people. They were like, no, you're a moron. How do you know they're going to cut the feed? I said, well, they're approaching South Africa, and the wall is near South Africa. So we all watched live together, 15, 20 people, and they cut the feed, South Africa. They were like, oh, that was a lucky guess. You know, how you couldn't know this. There's no way you could know that. I was like, well, yeah, they've cut the feed near South Africa. It will fly around to Australia, and it will come on. It will turn back on as it approaches Australia. It will leave Australia. It will turn off because, again, that's near the wall. It will fly all the way back around to Brazil. Depending on the weather, the coverage, it will stay on. It will fly near North America. It will cut because obviously there's a kind of a gateway between Russia and America, which they don't want you to see. They cut the camera. So yeah, there are the ball earthers I was discussing with said it was just random. They thought it was a random cut. Like, we don't know. It was just like, oh, we don't know when it's going to cut. And I was like, no, if you look at the flat earth map and look at the track, it's clear to see when it reaches the borders, they cut. When it reaches the North Pole, they cut. And yeah, so I made a video about this, and it just explains how they colonized certain countries like the south of Africa, Australia, America, and now today I'm kind of like, you know, brainstorming, why would they attack the Middle East? Is it because Islam or the Muslims understand that the earth is flat? They might reveal it, might want to investigate, might want to explore, so they kind of destabilize these countries who may cause, you know, trouble to the people who want to hide the secret. So again, look at your history. It tells you, it's very clear.
Let me ask this real quick. How are we looking on the video for the Flat Earth and Dave?
I couldn't find the video. It seems to be removed, but I've sent 2 different experiments to David showing where the Cavendish experiment was done in a vacuum chamber in 2 different ways. And I've posted the links to both of them in the chat.
Okay. By the way, guys, following this, you can join me in the Discord. If you're not a member of the Discord, it will be coming through in the live chat, or you can go to NonSequitur Show That's NonSequiturShow.com/Discord. That'll take you to the Discord. I'll be stopping in there in the voice chat and doing sort of a wrap up. So join us there if you would like. Okay, Dave, do you have those links ready to play? Or just one of them? Let's start with one of them because we are kind of close on time.
This is a Cavendish experiment done inside of a vacuum chamber. One sec, I'll get the page back up. Instead of a torsion wire, they use a ribbon inside a vacuum chamber. And using this, they've managed to increase the accuracy of G by another decimal place, but also confirms exactly what Cavendish got when he did the experiment a long, long time ago. Yeah, I've put the links to this experiment and another one, both of them done inside a vacuum chamber. The Cavendish experiment showing exactly the same results as done in other ways.
Okay.
So you don't actually have the video there, Fight, no?
Well, the video that I sent you seems to have been removed. I'd have to go and find it, but there's two separate papers, two separate articles that I've presented that show, talk about them being done in a vacuum chamber.
Yeah.
Okay, so make sure you send me those links and I can post those. Let me finish these super chats real quick, and then I will give you each an opportunity to make any last final closing remarks. Anything that you'd like to say to sum things up? But let me get through these first. Dave, you can go ahead and cut back to the main screen. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. Where did I end off at? Okay. The Pooch says, now we're getting into territory if I don't accept any answer coming from your site because of who you are. Roxana says, I love how flat earthers in the space are obligated to give them the exact same footage that they want. I've already read that one. Demonic Davros. SpaceX MF is showing videos of launch to orbit all over the website and YouTube. You have to do research and you have no research skills or even how to do a Google search. That's true. SpaceX did do a launch this past week. Jeff C. Evidence is irrelevant. Evidence is irrelevant for those who are motivated to remain ignorant. Adam does SE says, have the flat earthers looked at moon planets with a telescope? Have you looked at the moon or any other planets with a telescope? Kibo?
Yes, I've zoomed in. I've had a camera. I've looked. Yeah, it's still very difficult. Not with the P900, no.
Jeff C. Since there was an interruption in Spurskimo's stream, that proves he is CGI and not real, right? 0132-132. Has Spurs measured the height of the Empire State Building with a tape measurer?
No, of course not. But they knew the height that they wanted to build it at, and they didn't need science for that.
Sorry?
Wesley Smith.
Measure it, so I guess it's fake.
Wesley Smith says, haven't you globe dudes figured out that they ain't going to accept anything but a physical measurement filmed continuously into space or around the world yet? Seriously. Ben Nam says, how do they measure the height of a mountain or a building? I guarantee there isn't a ruler long enough yet. Flat earthers accept these heights as facts. You want to answer that?
Again, they know the height that they want to build, and they build from the ground up.
They don't build mountains, Spurs.
A mountain?
Yeah, they mentioned mountains. You don't build a mountain.
Oh, sorry,
I was measure that.
Building. Sorry. I build. Oh well, you would triangulate a mountain. Geometry would tell you the height of the mountain.
Triangulation, because that's basically a similar measurement as the parallax stuff and whatnot. So I mean, you can't use triangulation, man. I mean, you can't use that, but then throw out these other things. So you're gonna have to figure out some.
Remember, hold on a second. We're talking about tangible objects. We're not talking about science. We're talking about measuring things where we know where they are, and we can make accurate measurements here. Completely different to measuring stars, sun, the moon, things like this. Yep.
Fletcher Eiler says, Spurskimo, you are intellectually dishonest. You have asked Fight the Flat Earth to provide certain things, and when he has provided it, you have given no evidence. You want to answer that?
I think what we're going to find out in the future is it's going to boil down to logic and reason. Whoever can display the most reasonable argument, because we simply do not know, because science will not allow us to tell us where we live.
Okay, so what is your reasonable argument that the moon is small and local and we didn't land on it? I want to hear this.
Well, again, this is through observations. Now, again, is there an argument to say what I see seems local? Well, yes, of course. Can we measure it? No, we can't. So again, we would only be assuming the distance to the moon.
How do you know that the moon's just not far away and really big?
That's the thing. We don't know. This is what we're trying. This is what I'm trying to say. Soon, people will realize we will either live life assuming things, or accepting we just don't know.
Okay, well
That's
then
you're asking me to assume something.
You don't have a logical or reasonable argument then. So.
Well, it's reasonable to say that it's local. There are numerous observations with the sun, the moon, within the clouds. We see, numerous observations like this. So nothing to suggest that it's at the distance that you say it is. Other than your assumption.
Barry Schweitzer says you need to start these shows with a 5th grade science class. Miss Giza says, why didn't the USSR debunk the moon landing? It would have been devastating to the U.S. politically. Random guys can do what a superpower didn't. So
well, you should know that on Russian television, they continuously show that the moon landings were a hoax. It's not real. So they do inform the people. The people are aware. And if you ask, most Russians, did the Americans land on the moon? They will probably tell you, no, they didn't.
Okay, and last one, and then I'll let you
close to the moon landing many times.
Tim Pryor says he can go buy a telescope and see the ISS himself. Funny how flat earthers never do those things. Okay, so I'm going to.
Can I respond to that? So, like I said, having so there's something up there. It's possible there's something up there. Whether it's manned is another question. So yeah, so you can possibly see something with a telescope, but again, this idea that there are people in there orbiting the Earth is yet to be verified.
Well, no, you think it's to be verified because it's been verified.
Take a second and let you guys make your last minute statements, and then we'll have GE wrap everything up for us as he always does. Flat Earth, you go first?
No, let Spurs go first.
Yeah, like I say, I think there's a shift happening slowly, but this idea that science tells us where we live is going to be a problem, because you have to be able to manipulate the variables and things like this, independent variables, dependent variables. And this is going to be very difficult when it comes to the natural and physical world. I reiterate, the natural and physical world. There's a phenomenon, not just answering any question, something that we just cannot explain with common sense, or it's self-evident. Okay. So like I say, science, you guys throw it around like it's something that tells you where we live. We're obviously learning now that science is something that is very difficult to harness, because we cannot know things in the physical and natural world, in my mind, with science. Yeah, that's about it.
Before you start, I want to show something interesting, because you said, I assume the shift that you're talking about is that these things are like more people are asking questions and it's growing stronger. But as we saw with Globe Busters, And now this. Let's put this up, Dave. This is an interesting thing that just happened. The Flat Earth International Conference in Canada was just canceled. Yeah, which is very interesting. Maybe there's a downshift coming in the Flat Earth movement. It seems like there's a lot of infighting going on, and that's going to be what breaks up the movement. Why is that, you think?
Well, for me, this is because of the science thing. The whole science thing has confused everybody. Flat earthers, ball earthers. What is science? How to apply science? And I don't know. I'm not sure if this was something to do with the gyroscope there. What we thought was, or not I, but what one thought was science turns out not to be science. So there's slight confusion. Could be. We don't know with the future. Time will tell. Time will tell.
Sure. Okay. Fight the Flat Earth.
Well, first off, to talk about the Flat Earth movement growing, I've literally just checked Google Trends, and since January 2016, searches for Flat Earth have actually dropped over 75% if you look at it between then and now. So yeah, that's just not true. There is no growth within the Flat Earth movement. It's in its final death knells right now. In regards to the fact that we've gone to the moon, there is so much evidence to show that we have gone there. Not just from NASA, but from every other space agency that is out there doing the things. Especially Russia. Russia were the first ones to actually show that America did get to the moon. Russia don't tell their people that they didn't do it. Russia are very well known for confirming that America got to the moon and planted their flag there and everything. The amount of orbiters and stuff we've got there at the moment is just proving everything that we've said. You said we've never seen the backside of the moon. There was a recent picture showing a really, really good image of the dark side of the moon. Israel, a very small country, just got something on the way to the moon. You can keep denying it all you want, but we are going back there. It's in the works. We haven't gone back there in the last 50 years because we didn't need to, and also funding for the moon missions and stuff dropped after public interest was lost. But now people are starting to get interested in the space travel again. There's private organizations working. The technology we have now is so far advanced to what it was when we went to the moon back in the 60s and 70s. Spurs, you can deny these things all you want. In the next 10 years, there's going to be space flights for the public. There's going to be people on the moon, and there's going to be missions on the way to Mars. So I'm really looking forward to the day when you don't have to go, shit, I was wrong.
And finally, Wesley, that was it. We got to close up and wrap up. We're pushing too much time as it is anyway. We'll save it for the next one because we will redo another moon, so that way you can get prepared and bring very comfortable. Wesley Smith says, "Tell Dave to have fun going backwards in life and invest in caves to be ahead of the curve." Dave, you'll get a cave.
I'm not sure what he's talking about. I don't know how to take that, but anyway.
Tomorrow you can join us.
Quickly, Kyle, thank you for having me on. You run an absolutely fantastic show here. It's a really great platform, I feel, for truthers to speak their mind, and you're extremely fair. So yeah, it's been a pleasure, absolute pleasure.
It's first to tell that to me directly and come on here with me.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Sorry.
We'll bring you back
first. Could you tell Nathan Oakley how fair and the stuff they are here, and get Nathan Oakley to debate me on here, because I'm never going on his channel. So the ball's in his court for debate. You obviously know him quite well. Tell Nathan that I'm willing to debate him outside of his channel for me.
I will ask. I will ask. But this platform is there. But I will ask.
Yeah, but I want him away from his mute button. So that's when he gets a debate.
Can't work it out. But Kimo, we'll bring you back. We'll bring you back for sure. Thank you for being here, Guileless Engineer.
Yeah.
Actually, sorry. Tomorrow you can join us at 8 o'clock, where for me and Katie's Smoking Nun, and then immediately following that, Jimmy and I will be taking on another crazy video that happened this past week. So you can join us at 10 for that tomorrow. And finally, I'm going to let Godless Engineer take us out as only he can in his uke. Thank you for joining us and have a pleasant evening.
We landed on the moon. There's a lot of evidence for that. Measurements are part of science. If you can't get over that, then fuck off, fuck off, fuck off, fuck off.
And Kwasa says, for the last minute super chat, on the flip side, listening to Flat Earth is like an acid trip without spinning a dime. Thank you guys, and good night. We love you all.